Next we have Todd Davis. Todd is a native Midwesterner from Indiana and is now an associate professor of English at Penn State Altoona, where he teaches creative writing, environmental studies, and American literature. Todd Davis is a winner of the Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize. He's published 3 books of poetry, Ripe in 2002, Some Heaven in 2007, The Least of These in 2010, one chapbook, Household of Water, Moon, and Snow, the Thoreau Poems in 2010. He's co-editor of the anthology Making Poems, 40 Poems with Commentary by the Poets, also in 2010. Todd was a busy man in the last couple of years. And several works of criticism. Among the journals in which his poems have appeared are Christianity and Literature, North American Review, Iowa Review, Indiana Review, Gettysburg Review, West Branch, Midwest Quarterly, and Nebraska Review. With Kenneth Womack, he edited Reading the Beatles, Cultural Studies, Literary Criticism, and the Fab Four in 2006. His work has been featured on Garrison Keillor's Writer's Almanac and in American Life and Poetry, the syndicated column. Todd Davis's comments about his own work in making poems conclude with a testimony to the mystery of the pull and tug, the coupling of the body and language, the body and experience, that I hope to spend my days touching and molding the poem, firing it in the kiln of our existence and in the writing that helps us to understand it. Todd Davis.
Well, thanks so much to Stephen and Carolyn and everybody else who makes this possible. I really appreciate it. And the posters are absolutely beautiful. And it was fortuitous that a grad school friend, Kenneth Womack, ended up at Penn State. And then I started visiting this region where the ridge and valley comes crashing down to the Allegheny front. And the landscape is one of those landscapes that absolutely resonated with me immediately. And luckily, not by any great planning, my wife Shelley and my dear boys Noah and Nathan, we settled right at the foot of Game Lands 158 in Tipton, Pennsylvania, which is 16,000 acres of public land, which is contiguous to State Game Lands 108, which is another 15,000 acres. And so I spend my days getting lost in a little over 30,000 acres of Allegheny front wilderness. So that's where these poems tend to come from. As was mentioned, though, poetry is of the body, right? Language is of the body. Into the ear, out of the mouth, into the ear. It's a wonderful way to make love to our existence. The first poem is called A Memory of Heaven, and it has to do with Sinking Valley, which, as the crow flies, is about 15 miles south of here. Brush Mountain goes along 99 south of here, and up and over the mountain is Sinking Valley, where many Amish have now settled. And it's a valley of limestone in which rivers rise and then fall under the limestone, eating away the limestone. A memory of heaven. Ice is talking, water dreaming. Overhead, darkness pinched by starlight. Below, in the mud of the world, turtle sleeps. Everything fluid, formless without the light of a lantern. I must remember snow is enough to see by, and ice will tell us where we should step. At the end of the valley, limestone swallows water, moon turns the trees blue, and red crossbills look for seed among hemlocks. Beneath the fields, water is talking in its sleep. Ice quiets its dreams. What I write is always what comes after. And if you don't know, Ursus americanus is our black bear, which we've got plenty of black bear around here. And I think of Whitman as our black bear of American poetry. So we have Ursus Whitmana in this poem. It's called Half in the Sun. This is the lit prayer of the shining world. The words that glisten like an oil stain, purple and dark in rain, mirror in sun. This is the liturgy of both and that affirms our feet as they tread the earth. The bear of the world who wanders neighborhoods and dreams, who turns over garbage bins, then bounds across manicured lawns. This is Ursus Whitmana, throwing his arms around the green ball of everything, the love he hoped could be carried in syllables, a pink heaven, ants dancing upon the tongue. This is the rot-sticky sweetness that lies down against the skin, finest hairs stuck together, the songs we collect in the hymnals of our flesh, impromptu, a cappella, our mouths flung open in a great wide O. And being at this sort of thing, I think of poetry as a river, and we're all just dipping our cups in to the river, and hopefully occasionally we're getting naked and enjoying the river fully. But, I've been reading the poetry of these other poets for years, and I brought along my books to have them signed at dinner, like a nervous schoolboy asking for a date. Tim, would you sign my book, please? And so this river of poetry, and so sort of stuns me that hopefully I can contribute at least a drop into this river. And then Shelley, my dear wife, who allows me to write about her and my sons, and you'll see why she has great patience with this poem. This really did happen to her about the second year that we were living here in Pennsylvania. Craving. And maybe I should stop. I'm a veterinarian son, so I forget these things. Estrus, right? The rut. Many of you who live in PA, you know about hunting and the rut that goes on before hunting season takes place, right? The deer are coming into that place where they can mate and make Bambi. So, craving. In the dust of a February snow, the coyote's track follows the deer's track. He sees in the hoof-dragged line of her stride a weariness that lengthens with winter's spiteful width, a labor he longs to release with the clean tear of canine, the easy flow of artery. Along the banks, the river runs faster, snowmelt and the quickening of time as sun throws down more light each day. A mink scores its trail, countering the river's chorus, and every 20 yards a pool of piss sugared with blood, with estrus's craving. We're always giving ourselves away, smallest parts of our bodies flying through space, neutrinos hauling the blood and dust and piss of our existence. How surprised the buck was when he approached my wife, her menses thick in his nostrils, and even when he realized her bottom was clothed, no doe's red vulva beckoning, he could not turn away. The coyote must be fed. The mink joined to her mate. My wife ran the dirt trail back to our house, collapsed, and later laughed at her own allure. Alone, wind coming up from the river, the buck must have raised his head, barely aware of the heart's insistent thump, as he tried once again to catch the stinging scent that spurs us on. He was spoken for already, so. My boys teach me lots of lessons about mercy, and this happened about 4 years into our staying here in Pennsylvania. And, lessons, we tell our children, no, you shouldn't lie, but of course there are times that mercy demands that we lie. This poem's called Accident. They tell the son, who tells his friends at school that the father's death was an accident, that the rifle went off while he was cleaning it. I'm not sure why he couldn't wait. We understand the ones who decide to leave us in February, even as late as March. Snows swell, sun disappears, hunting season ends. With 2 deer in the freezer, any family can survive. I know sometimes it feels like you've come to an end of something. Sometimes you just want to sit down beneath a hemlock and never go back. But this late in the year, when plum trees have opened their blossoms, Yesterday, it was so warm, we slept with the windows open. Smell of forsythia right there in the room. I swear you could hear the last few open. Silk petals come undone, a soft sound like a pad sliding through a gun's barrel. White cloth soaked in bore cleaner, removing the lead, the copper, the carbon that fouls everything. My son knows you don't die cleaning your rifle. The chamber's always open. I told him to nod his head anyway when his friend tells the story, to say yes as many times as it takes, to never forget the smell of smoke and concrete, the little bit of light one bulb gives off in a basement with no windows. And I'll read Jack Lighting and then leave you on a little brighter note. Jack Lighting is the poem in this poster series. Jack Lighting. In this part of Pennsylvania, roads run along stream beds, or besides the narrow tributaries the highest ridges conceal when they turn their faces to the north or south. Creases mark the length of their long necks, ravines as beautiful as the shadowed space at the base of a woman's throat. In these little traveled places, the men who have been without work for weeks and weeks take their trucks out into the dark to find deer, to capture them in the gaze of their high beams so they might kill, come back to their homes with more than the defeated faces they wear as they pay for milk and bread with food stamps. Their few real dollars laid down for a pack of camels. They'll smoke as they gut the animal in the barn, taking what they can, dumping the rest along the river, where winter snows bury the arcs of the deer's slender white ribs. And now an environmental studies service announcement. Right now, if you go out to the Scotia Barrens, you're in the woodcock mating season. And if you've ever seen woodcocks in their mating, you'll know men truly are nuts. And so, this poem is My Son in Love for the First Time. And what the display that's described here is accurate. My son in love for the first time. So the Scotia Barrens, you can go out and see this any night this week. He comes home from school mumbling and buzzing like the woodcock in spring, who at dusk sounds his nasal peent, a lament for the love he has not found, and throws himself into the air, spinning in an ever-widening spiral, a bit higher with each turn, without care, until he cannot breathe to breathe, and as if he's been shot, tumbles, plummets toward earth, the only place the virtues of love flourish, his song caught in the back of his throat, the shrill whistle of his wing feathers telling the story of his sorrow, and his decision that life, even if she does not choose him, might be worth yet another flight into the sky's closing light, into the languor of lust's lunar phase.